Sacred scripture tells us that the victory that has overcome the world is our faith. But in these times, faith can be shaken. Perhaps you've been through it. Our guest has, but he has plowed through with the help of the Holy Spirit to be where he is today. We're honored to have Gino De Luca join us for My Faith with Homer and Pip. I'm Tommy Pippin's more important, our producer, the incredible Brent Young, and the man who had the vision for this video cast, ladies and gentlemen, he is the greatest of all time. He's awesome in my biased opinion. Steve the Homer True, kick us off, buddy, with Gino.
Gino doesn't know the pressure that has been created because Tommy's standard is so high. I never want to know anything about anyone because the story is always so incredible. My faith, and you are free to start whenever you want, however you want. It's your story, and we listen, which Tommy will admit can be tough for two people in the media.
Well, my faith, of course, all started like probably a lot of other people. It started when I was very young with my parents, Joe and Honey De Luca. Her name was Gertrude, but they called her Honey. And they were regular churchgoers, but they weren't like the pious type. You know, they were very fun and very loving. And when I was growing up on the north side of Chicago, this was in the late 60s and the early 70s, at the neighborhood parishes, I was at Queen of Angels Parish in the Ravenswood, Lincoln Square area. We had guitar mass. We had the nuns with the guitars and the folk mass and all of that. And we had to have mass in the basement. We couldn't have mass in the main church. So they painted up the basement and they called it the garden church. But one of my lasting impressions of my parents were that they were there at the guitar mass, a married couple, in their 40s, with all these young kids, playing guitars and playing tambourines and stuff. So I guess my point is that my faith started as a very joyful experience. It was very joyful. And of course, I always had music in my soul. They put me into music lessons when I was 6. And so just the combination of that, having a very joyful faith and religious experience, along with my musical experience that I got to carry throughout the rest of my life. So you'll hear me talking about my parents a lot. I think I drive my friends crazy. I always go back to my parents. So.
And why?
Well, because they are your first experience of the world. They really show you everything. And I just don't want to limit it to parents. I would say generally, it's the people that raise you. Some people are raised by their grandparents or an older brother, an older sister, or an aunt and uncle. It's your first experience of everything. And I think if you have a very joyful experience, that is what you integrate into yourself and you take with you for the rest of your life. And, go ahead.
No, I'm thinking as far as the faith, now that you're older and have your own faith, when you look back, what do you think they taught you or showed you about faith?
I would say that they taught me the true meaning of Jesus. The all loving, the all forgiving, the all encompassing, because they loved everybody. They just, no matter what their faith was or their color or their religion, they just showed a true love that really reflected what Jesus was all about. And just a really quick story. As you can tell, I grew up in a very loving family, a very stable family, but some of my friends growing up did not have that. They had parents that were divorced or they had a difficult home life. And I would come home. Of course, you had to be at the dinner table at 5 o'clock, every day. And of course, I would have extracurricular activities like, the neighborhood boys club choir or practice at church. And so I would come home a little bit late sometimes. And there would be my friends, Danny and Renee having dinner with my parents because they called over looking for me. And of course, I could hear the conversation on the phone. Those rotary phones that were on the wall. Is Gene home? They used to call me Gene back then. Is Gene home? Well, no, he's busy. But would you like to come over for dinner? So they'd be having dinner. And I would come through. I'm like, oh yeah, there's all my friends with mom and dad. It took me a while to figure that out, but it just real stuff like that really stuck with me. They just loved everybody.
Most parents, or a lot of parents, don't do that. Was that a reflection of their faith, or was it a reflection of humanity?
Mhm.
How did you fit all that in? Maybe not then, but again, as you look back now and talk so often about your parents.
Yeah, I think it might, I think it was probably faith and humanity, but it might have had to do with the culture too, because they're Sicilian. So their parents came over from Sicily, and they went, they checked in at Ellis Island and they settled in Chicago. And thus my parents were born there. So, and I'm second generation, so that whole family, that whole idea of family, whether you're a blood relative or not. I think it was maybe a combination of all of that.
This is my favorite question.
Okay.
That is, from your faith as a child to a day when the faith becomes yours. It either leaves you, you become stronger, you never change, but there's a point in everyone's life where their parents don't own it, they own it. What's that story?
Wow. I would say that I started owning my faith. Well, that's a very difficult question. I'm thinking when I became musically involved in church. That's when it really kind of all made sense to me, and it really gave me purpose. And that's the purpose I've been able to carry through the rest of my life. I've been a church musician, since I was in grammar school. And of course, they were the ones that encouraged it. And, I was the one who just took the ball and ran. And that's how I'm making my living now. I'm singing in church, actually sing in 2 churches right now.
But you can show your talents out of church.
Which I do, because there's a whole other side. I'm a solo cabaret performer. I play the piano and sing, and I take requests right at the piano. But I got to tell you something, whether I'm, cantering at the Basilica, or for the Heart of the Nation masses, or at the cathedral, or sitting down playing cocktail music or taking requests at the piano, all of those lines have become blurred for me. They've all they become blurred. Like, my original musical experience was in the church, but I brought all that to other areas of my life, and everything's really been, I think, integrated.
Wow. I know there's more to the story. I want to ask you, as
Sure.
someone who doesn't have musical talent, at what age did you turn to God and go, I just want to thank you? There's no way I can have this much talent. It's a gift from you. And I know that because I've met Homer and he can't do a lick, and all these other people. And there's no reason I should have it, and they don't.
I'm thinking it was the point when I got my first professional job, when I actually got paid to perform. And that was, I got hired to play in it was a wedding band. They had this was in 1980. So I was probably about maybe 14 or 15 years old. And they lost their piano player. And no, it was like a 50th wedding anniversary. And so I got a phone call from a musician I knew, and he knew that I read charts, those fake books with just the melody and the chords, and I would just make everything up, which was kind of a problem when I was studying classical music, because I would improvise to Bach and stuff like that. But that's another story. And so anyway, I remember him having to call my parents to say, we want to hire Gene to play in this band. We'll pick him up and we'll drop him off. And I did the gig and I came up with, but before he dropped me off at my house, he gave me like $60 or $80 in cash. And I'm like, what is this for? He goes, well, this is what you made. And I was just like, so I don't know what to do. So I walked in and they're like, how was everything? I said, it was fine. And then I handed the money to my parents, and they're like, where'd this come from? And I said, I made this playing the piano today. And I think it was at that point that I said, oh, this is the kind of maybe set the ball rolling for future things.
I've never gotten to ask this question, but like I want to know your favorite song. Like my favorite song is "I Go Before You Always." Not just the song, but if I could pick any words, those are kind of the words I would pick.
Oh, that's really tough because, you know, I did a doctorate in voice literature. And so it's, you have to specify, is it something sacred, something pop, something
It
great?
is something sacred. And I ask people when they feel closest to God,
sacred.
or something sacred that you say, this
Yes.
is the best.
I could tell you.
The words, the music, everything that you feel the closest to God through music, which you can clearly do.
I could tell you, and it's my mother's favorite song, "Let There Be Peace on Earth, and Let It Begin with Me." Hands down. Even better than Eagle's Wings, which is a favorite among a lot of people.
Because of the connection of your parents, or why?
It's just, I think it was because it was my mother's favorite song and she used to sing it. I got my voice from my mother. And she was not trained, but she had a lot of innate musical talent. And once I was old enough to really realize what those lyrics meant, that's what I think probably galvanized me into that specific song. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Because I mean, and I think if you think about it, like intellectually, that could change the entire world. If everyone thought that and believed that, which unfortunately, you know, they don't, that really, really could change the world, I believe.
And it is your faith, so that's the most important part.
Absolutely.
Tommy, I know there's more. So
I know
Tommy,
there's more, but let me tell you something, and I'm going the music way, but what I truly feel is the more, because I had some very dark, trying times in my life, and I bet you want to probably hear about that too. But what I have come out of all of this with is that, and this works in tandem, faith in yourself and faith in God. The more faith you have in yourself, the more faith you have in God, and vice versa. Because I believe at best, we are co-creating our lives. God gives us the creation. He gives us all these gifts, all these talents, everything you need here on earth. But then the rest is up to you to decide what you want to do with them. You know, everyone has 24 hours in the day. And so that would probably be my faith story, I would think. Belief in myself and belief in God.
along with those stories you alluded to.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, also too, I wake up every morning, if I'm breathing, if I have breath, if I have life, I know God has said, okay, Gino, I came up with my end of the deal and I did a great job. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with what I gave you? All these talents, you know, your education, your free will. See, here's where the free will comes in. What are you going to do with it? And I really do think we work in tandem. We literally co-create our lives. Okay. Not that we're at the level of God, but we're co-creating.
Tommy?
Well, Gino, to look at you, there's such peace and joy and this incredible musical gift that I didn't think words such as anxiety and depression and a faith shaken
Oh, yeah.
were in your realm at all, but they center around when you were going after your PhD, correct? Please share.
Right.
That.
When I went for my doctorate, I was in uncharted waters because hardly anyone in my family even finished college. But I had acquired multiple stressors. And it's not only the pressure that the program puts on you or the university, but it's the pressure you put on yourself too. You have all of this stuff to prove. And so just a background, I had took a 19-year break from college because I had never gotten my degree, and I worked professionally and reached a ceiling, and went back to college when I was 35. And I did my undergraduate, and I went right into my master's, and I went right into my doctorate. So there's this 13-year chunk as a middle-aged man where I went back to college as an adult. I mean, and I succeeded. straight A's, scholarships, grants, all the way to my PhD. And when I applied at the University of Iowa for this PhD in music, I was awarded a presidential graduate fellowship, which is basically like the full ride. But you have to work, but I got paid to go there and paid to do my research, and they have my dissertation with their name on it. But I was the first music major in the entire history of the University of Iowa to receive that. So that was the first pressure. And of course, all the pressure I had been putting on myself, multiple stresses, I mean, I did have some coping skills and coping mechanisms, but they just weren't enough. So I had profound episode of depression and anxiety, which was exacerbated by insomnia. I just didn't sleep. And physically, what happens to you when you are depressed or anxious or not sleeping, the chemistry in your brain changes. Everything changes. And, black is white and white is black and good is bad, and it's very real. It's very real what you're going through. And I was actually hospitalized. I didn't sleep, I don't think, for 22 days. I mean, my mind was fractured, But I got to say that eventually I got through it. And I wasn't thinking about my faith at that time because I just wanted to get better. But once I started getting better and started believing in myself a little bit more, and I started working on my coping skills, that's when I came to realize that, well, God was there the whole time. That story about the one set of footprints on the beach? That's exactly what that is. So I go through just as much depression and anxiety. I mean, we're all human. I think at the end of the day, a lot more people are depressed or anxious than we think, because the world is just not the way we want it to be. And so for me, by gaining faith in myself and realizing that really is faith in God, and God was really carrying me through this. I don't think he gives you more than you can handle, and it was very, 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 very dark for me. And I also didn't mention that my mother passed away when I was 17. I lost my mom as well. So there was some big losses in my life.
We're saying at some point, excuse me.
Yeah.
But we're saying at some point, you lose your dear mom, you're a superstar, you're rolling through, and all of a sudden you're hospitalized with anxiety and depression and insomnia. Were you angry with the Lord? Was there ever a point where not only was your faith shaken, but maybe you would lose your faith? And how did you grow in the midst of all of it?
I got to tell you, I wasn't even thinking about my faith back then. When I really go back and look at it, I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to get better. And when like I said, when the ball started rolling, when my insomnia was dissipating and I was getting through, my anxiety, my depression, then I realized, well, I'm still here. But guess who was here with me the whole time? I mean, you think of the alternative, you could be 6 feet under.
But you didn't have to make that a part of it. You could have said, I figured this out. You added that. I can only imagine your mom, your dad, if they heard this, would go like, that's why we did what we did. Why do you think you added that? Because you didn't have to. You didn't have to add a faith or God. You could have said, I finally figured this out with whatever help you got. You added that other part. You chose to.
I mean, I guess I did. Like I said, when you're going through depression and anxiety, I mean, you are not thinking right at all. You are not thinking right at all. But it's very real. It's very real. I mean, I was so depressed and so anxious that I couldn't even look at a piano keyboard or a piece of music. The things that made me happy did not. at all.
Everybody has bad days. How can you explain to all of us when you knew it was really bad, or that this is just wrong, where it's at a different level, where someone needs help, or
Yeah, it was really just that, when I couldn't even look at anything musical or anything or anything academic. It was really bad.
for a day, for a week,
Oh
or
no, this was for months. This was for several months. Yeah, I had to leave a semester. I think I left maybe 6 weeks before the semester ended. And then I took all of that summer to recover, and then I came back, but I had work to make up as well too. And all during this time, when it got really bad, I never thought that I could get through it. I never thought that I could get through it, but somehow I did.
so what? You wake up each day thinking what? Or you weren't sleeping? What? There are 24 hours to fill. How are you filling them?
Well, you're just, I mean, when you're in a hospital, you're really just kind of lying around. You really become immobile. I mean, there were days, even weeks, when I just couldn't even get off of the couch.
Every day after day.
Mm-hmm. Until one day, I remember I said, like, it's almost like, it's not really making a resolution or anything, because I didn't feel strong enough to do that. But I told myself, I'm just going to do one thing today. And I think it was like make a pot of coffee. And that's what I did. And that was the only thing I did that day. And then the next day I said, okay, well, I'm going to make a pot of coffee, and then I'll, clean the bathroom floor. So I started giving myself, and it's not like it would happen like, there may be like a day in between when I was just depressed and doing nothing.
And this is while you're a student going for your PhD.
Mm-hmm. But what I had to do first is get my sleep taken care of. I had to make sure that I was, because I was up worrying and ruminating, and that was the lack of sleep.
Well, but no, but you have to sleep. You can't stay up that many days.
I know,
It's
I
not
did.
possible.
I know. So like I said, I kind of had to do it logically. I had to get my sleep regulated. And of course, there was, I had therapists. Of course, there's medication and all of that. But eventually you wean yourself off of that.
And now I get why you say God telling you, I did my part now.
He did.
You take it from here.
Yeah, really. But, and when I go back, I guess, I see, like I said, when you're depressed, you're not thinking right. You're not thinking straight. But I know he was there the whole time, even if it was like, way down inside with all these layers of problems that I had to just dig out and weed through.
So today, what is your faith? How does it fit?
How does my faith fit in?
Yeah, what is it today? Because you're not clearly in that situation. Now you're back to normal, or whatever phrase.
I guess so.
Now you're living.
Yeah, I mean, and even better, well, I go to Mass every morning. I take Holy Eucharist.
And why do you do that?
Because of my relationship with Jesus Christ.
A lot of people have a relationship. They don't go to Mass every day. I mean,
okay, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Why is that so important to you?
It is for me. Well, I'll tell you, because I feel closest to my parents, to Joe and Honey De Luca, when I am in a Roman Catholic church. And I started going to Mass every morning about 5.5 years ago when I moved here, because I moved here because I was having discernment to the priesthood. And I went to the seminary and I was meeting with, I think it was Father Luke Strand. He was your contact person. And as we were discerning, he said, do you go to mass every day? I said, well, no, not really. Just, I sing a lot. I'm singing Sunday masses. He goes, why don't you start going to mass every morning? And I did. And it stuck. Now, some days sometimes I miss a day, but I don't beat myself up about that. But it's really has become part of my routine these last 5.5 years. So I got to tell you, between 5 or 6 days a week, morning mass, as a congregant, as a daily communicant, I'm a cantor at the Basilica. I'm a cantor at the Cathedral. I can sing up to 8 masses a week as a professional cantor. So, church junkie over here, I could be at 12, 13 masses a week. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I've always loved it. I've always loved church. I've always loved mass.
And in these daily mass attendance,
yes,
what are you thinking? Everybody observes, participates in mass differently.
Well, I go there. I go there. It's a very calming and quiet atmosphere where you could just really sit. And first of all, I'm very grateful for everything that I have and where I'm at right now in my life. And even the bad parts of my life, I'm very thankful for, because they were all learning experiences and I got through them. And I get to have a meal with my parents and my forefathers and all of my family before me. I love hearing about the saints. Sometimes there's a different saint day. As a matter of fact, there's a book I read. It's called Blessed Among Us. It has 2 saints a day. I like biographies. I like reading about people and seeing what their take on life was and everything. And
all right, so give us a couple saints. You're our saints person. Who, if I say you get 30 seconds to tell me about one saint, or 30 seconds too, who's at the top of your list?
Francis, Saint Francis, definitely. Saint Francis.
Because
he, like Jesus Christ, offered it to everyone. He started the order with the monks. Then he started the Sisters of Clare. And then he started a 3rd order for lay people. So anyone could participate. No one is excluded. No one is excluded.
All right, next. Who's number 2?
Yeah.
Come on, give us some saints. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Homer's a Saint Teresa of Calcutta guy.
Yeah, but we don't want to influence it. I want to know there can be a different saint, or I don't get this saint, or it could be an old saint. When
I think I like the saint. A lot of them were very, very rich people. And they had all these opportunities in the world, and they left all of that. I think St. Francis took all his clothes and was walking naked through the streets, when he found that church that he had to rebuild. I think maybe like a total conversion. Also the same, I can't name any saints specifically, but there are a lot of them that just go into seclusion. And I don't know, that we could talk. There's a lot to talk about.
No, that's why we created this. It's my fascination of my faith, your faith, and you have all this money. Well, what are you thinking? You would think they would be the last people to do it.
Absolutely.
Rather than the first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Tommy. I've asked too many questions. Take it away.
No, you don't. You ask really good
Roll
questions.
with it, buddy. He's our catalyst. Gino, I've got 2.
Okay.
One is, I've heard people say, well, I worship God my own way. I don't have to go to church. And again, as you said, it may not be for everyone.
No, it's definitely not for everybody.
In my humble opinion, going to mass I mean, I love hanging out with Homer. He's maybe my dearest friend in life, and Brenda's right there with him. But we've spent time together. I've gotten to know him and vice versa, shared a lot of things in trust. Today, people are not going to mass because of COVID as we speak, or church, but a lot of people sadly aren't going at all. Is it fair to say that you go to mass in part anyway, because you want to get to know Jesus better, your friend, your Lord, your Savior?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know. I'm gonna go back to childhood. I think a lot of people that don't go to church or don't go to mass, you know, they had some type of negative experience. Like I said, I think if you had a really good experience, like I did with my parents and the guitar mass and the music and the worshiping, you know, but the whole community aspect of it, I think it's a different story. I think it's a different story. Also, too, I mean, I know a lot of people are very scared of the COVID and everything, but uh, churches are really safe places. I mean, they take the precautions with the mask and the distancing and you know, keeping things sanitized.
The
I would
beauty,
find it very hard to believe that someone would go to church and catch COVID, but maybe I'm just being naive.
forgive me for interrupting there.
That's okay.
The beauty of Homer's vision, I think, is that, as a pastor friend told us, a lot of people today, again, aren't going to church, period. So it might be the story shared, such as yours, that will inspire them, help them.
I do,
I
because I have a lot of friends who are I have a lot of my friends just think I'm crazy for going to church, you know. And you know, even in my brother and my sister, they even asked, you know, of course you went to mass day, but it's my thing. It's what I love. It's what I love to do. You know, it's so galvanized into my being. You know, I don't feel like I have to defend it. But I really do think, and sometimes when I actually do open up the conversation with somewhat like a lapsed Catholic or people who don't go to church, I ask them, I say, is it the church that made you mad, or is it someone in the church that made you mad? You know, was it a nun who rapped your knuckles, or, you know, a priest who was exploiting or whatever, you know? And it's usually someone, you know, it's not the church, usually someone. But I'm not here to evangelize or to convert. That's, you know, my ministry is music, and bringing the word of God through music, which you see that I do, and is very fulfilling, very, very fulfilling. And I'm thinking, if I never got through those rough times I was talking about, I'd never be able to do what I'm doing now, singing the Heart of the Nation masses and at the Basilica and at the cathedral. And so God needed me for something.
now maybe that's a good jumping point for my last one.
Okay.
There's somebody out there who's really depressed, lots of anxiety, and no hope. Could you talk about, or talk to that individual who might be within the sound of our voices, and offer some encouragement? If I may, yeah, you cooperated with God's grace, but then there's your faith component. So you handle that any way you want to, Gino.
I would tell this individual that what you're feeling and what you're thinking is very, very real. It's very, very real. And it is only experienced by you, and no one can understand what you are going through. But if you can just imagine that, yes, there is hope and there is a way out of this. And if you start with just tiny little increments of things that give you more belief in yourself, try it. You know, and if it doesn't work, try something else. Just try. You know, not asking you to, you know, get yourself up and out of bed and all this. I mean, just try, because you are here. Also, too, think of everything that you've been through in your life. This episode you're going through now, the episode that led to that episode. and you are still breathing. You are still breathing. That is God. That is God telling you, I still want you here.
Homer?
Like I said, I start with my breath
No,
every morning.
you're not allowed. Neither of us are allowed to add to that. That's it. I'm
I
not saying I'm
figured.
not adding on that.
Well, think of the alternative, 6 feet under. And let's hope your soul is in good graces with God. Why do you think I go to mass every morning? If he does decide to call you home. So seriously, God invented humor too. It would be a disgrace to God if we didn't joke around. And you know, I got to tell you, on a tangent, when COVID started and everyone thought the world was going to end, I'm like, God is not going to let the world end. We're his comedy club. He needs someone to laugh at. He's not going to get rid of us. Who's he going to laugh at?
And
See, now I'm talking like my father.
no. And Tommy, you wonder why we call it my faith?
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. But I would tell these depressed people, yes, you do. And I got to tell you something. They won't. People may not understand, but that is a gift. That is a gift. Your depression is a gift, and you're going to realize that when you get through it and you look back at it. And you're like, I went through this. I got through this by sheer willpower, faith in myself, faith in God. And now I'm here to talk about it and help other people. And that's God's work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm with Homer. I don't think there's much more we can add, Gino De Luca. It's been marvelous. I always tell me it's not about anybody who gets the guest. It's about the Holy Spirit, although a special thanks to Deanna at Heart of the Nation for recommending you.
Oh, Deanna Page Tricks, I hope you're listening to, you are the heart of my nation.
Yeah, there you go.
I never thought, I never thought I would be on TV singing. And what's great about that is my entire family. I mean, it's broadcast in hundreds of cities. It's like, I get a text from my brother. He's like, Gene, you're in our living room singing to us. My Auntie Dee Scarletta, you're in our living room singing with us. So, I mean, you never know where it's going to take you. That's why you have to try to get better. If you're feeling depressed or anxious, or if your brain's shutting off from insomnia, and you're still breathing.
Lots of gratitude for your willingness to share and be transparent with us. And I, in my humble opinion, I'd like to think, I pray that someone has been blessed by it, and I'm sure that's the case. So we appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, St. Gino.
Thank you, Steve. And Brent, is he still here?
Brent Young is our producer. You betcha. It doesn't
okay.
happen.
Thank you, fellas. Have a great, enjoy, you know, that thing in the sky that's shining, the thing called the sun, brother sun, as St. Francis. Enjoy the sun out there today.
Beautiful way to end. Thank you. It's been My Faith with Homer and Pip. For the incomparable Steve, the Homer True, for our producer, Brent Young, the amazing one. I'm Tommy Pippins with Gino De Luca. If you have an idea, if you want to come on yourself and share your face or know someone, please feel free to email me, pippinstom@yahoo.com, P-I-P-I-N-E-S, pippinstom@yahoo.com. Gino said a lot of great things. There is hope. God bless you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye now.